EndTimes Prophecy Update, March 28, 2026. As we watch the current events on this Saturday, the Middle East is once again at the center of global upheaval, and it's impossible for students of Bible prophecy to ignore the parallels to Scripture. What began as U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran in late February has escalated into a full-scale conflict now stretching into its fourth week, with Iran's chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz sending shockwaves through the world's energy markets. This isn't just geopolitics, it's a textbook example of how wars and rumors of wars and economic distress can converge as signs of the end times. Current events snapshot as of March 28, 2026. The Iran conflict. U.S. and Israeli forces launched major operations against Iranian nuclear and ballistic missile sites. Iran retaliated with missile strikes on Israel and Gulf targets, including energy infrastructure in Qatar and elsewhere. The battle has damaged key oil and gas facilities, halted production in parts of the Persian Gulf, and left tankers stranded at sea, over 20,000 seafarers affected. Strait of Hormuz crisis. Iran has effectively closed or severely restricted this critical waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil and significant LNG volumes normally flow. Tanker traffic is at a standstill, with attacks on vessels, electronic interference, and insurance costs skyrocketing. Iran has threatened indefinite closure, demanded tolls reported at up to $2 million per tanker, and warned of broader strikes on Gulf power plants if provoked. Some ships have transited sporadically, but the de facto blockade persists despite President Trump's repeated ultimatums and deadline extensions. Oil and energy markets in turmoil. Prices have surged dramatically since late February. Brent crude, the global benchmark, has climbed above $100 to $114 per barrel at peaks, with recent trading around $100 to $106. WTI has followed suit, spiking into the $90s to $100 range. Natural gas and LNG prices have jumped even harder. Europe saw increases of 35 to 40%. Analysts warn of prolonged disruption, potentially through 2027 if facilities take years to repair, echoing the 1970s energy crises, but on a greater scale. Global supply is down sharply, with force majeure declarations from major exporters like Qatar. This is no temporary blip. Even partial reopenings have caused wild price swings, down 3% one day, up 4% the next, but the risk of full closure remains a doomsday scenario for energy markets. What does Scripture say about all of this? The Bible repeatedly warns that the run-up to Christ's return will feature global conflict, economic collapse, and resource scarcity, exactly what we're seeing unfold today. Consider these direct connections. Revelation 6 verses 5 and 6, the third seal, famine and economic rationing. A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. A denarius was a full day's wage, meaning bread would cost everything a man earned in a day. With 20% of global oil suddenly at risk, energy prices spiking, and ripple effects on food production, shipping and inflation already hitting hard, the black horse rider feels closer than ever. Oil isn't just fuel, it's fertilizer, plastics, transport, it's everything. Disruptions here could trigger the very scarcity John described nearly 2,000 years ago. Wars and rumors of wars. Jesus declared these as the beginning of birth pangs. The U.S.-Israel-Iran war, drawing in multiple Gulf states, fits the pattern of escalating Middle East chaos that prophecy teachers have long anticipated. Ezekiel 38 and 39 describe a Gog-Magog coalition, a northern power and its allies coming against the nation of Israel in the latter days. Ancient Persia, modern-day Iran, is named among those allies. While the full invasion may be future, today's alignment, the nation of Israel under fire, Iran threatening the world's energy lifeline, is accelerating the birth pangs. Control of global commerce. The Bible foretells a time when one system will dominate buying and selling, Revelation 13, verses 16 and 17. A prolonged energy crisis could push the world towards centralized solutions, global deals, digital currencies, or authoritarian controls over resources. What happens when oil, and thus food and goods, becomes weaponized? The World Economic Forum is already framing this crisis as proof of the dangers of fossil fuel dependence, calling for accelerated transitions to renewables, centralized grid systems, and greater global coordination. The cascading impacts, inflation, GDP reductions, fertilizer shortages affecting food prices worldwide, are asymmetric and hitting import-dependent regions hardest. Their Global Risks Report 2026 ranked geoeconomic confrontation as the top short-term global risk. The Hormuz situation is a prime example of how interconnected vulnerabilities amplify instability and how a global crisis could be used to justify global control. We're not date-setting, but the convergence is unmistakable. Israel in the crosshairs, a major choke point for global energy seized, prices exploding, the world on edge. This aligns perfectly with the fig tree generation seeing these signs intensify in our lifetime. What this means for us: stay watchful. Stock up on the essentials the Lord leads you to prepare, physically and spiritually. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, as Psalm 122, verse 6 commands. Pray for the many in the Middle East and across the globe to turn to Christ amid the chaos. These events are not cause for fear, they are confirmation that our redemption draws near, as Luke 21, verse 28 promises. Keep looking up, the King is coming. Maranatha.